Theia Vex pressed her slender fingers against the containment field, 3 violet eyes fixed on the impossible specimen before her. 20 years studying an extinct species, and now one breathed the same air as her. Recording entry 7429B. She spoke to her lab system. Subject appears to be authentic Homo sapiens, male, approximately 30 solar cycles in age. Bipedal structure consistent with archaeological records. No signs of genetic modification or synthetic components. The human remained unconscious on her examination table, chest rising and falling in steady rhythm. His appearance matched every historical record in her extensive database. 2 arms, 2 legs, 5-fingered hands, and a face that held a strange symmetry she found oddly captivating. Unlike her own bluish-gray skin with its bioluminescent patterns, his was a warm tan tone, unmarked by the natural light emissions of modern sentient species. This violates every established extinction timeline, Theia muttered, circling the table. Humans disappeared 623 years ago. Complete biological extinction, confirmed across 17 systems. A proximity alert chimed, startling her. Director Orin requesting entry. Delay access. Atmospheric decontamination in progress, she lied, heart racing as she dimmed the laboratory lights. If the Academy learned she'd brought an unclassified specimen directly to her private lab rather than the quarantine facilities, her career would end instantly. But this discovery was too important, too personal, to surrender to institutional protocols and bureaucratic delays. The human's eyelids fluttered. Theia froze, hand hovering over her tranquilizer injector. Instead of reaching for it, she dismissed the floating displays around them with a gesture, reducing the sensory overload he would experience upon waking. His eyes opened fully, brown irises focusing, then widening in shock as they locked onto her alien form. He jerked upright, then clutched his head in pain. "Please remain calm," Theia said in basic Galactic, while activating the universal translator. "You're safe." The human stared at her, breathing rapidly, eyes darting around the laboratory. "Where am I? What are you?" His voice was deeper than she'd expected, the sound sending an unexpected shiver along her spine. Theia hesitated. In thousands of simulated conversations with theoretical human survivors, she'd never considered what she'd actually say when face-to-face with one. "I am Dr. Theia Vex, synanthropologist specializing in human studies at the Galactic Historical Academy." She maintained distance, trying to appear non-threatening despite her height advantage. "You're in my research facility on Novaris Prime. Your vessel crashed in the northern wilderness. I intercepted the recovery team." The human swung his legs over the edge of the table but didn't attempt to stand. "My name is Caden Solaris. I need to contact my ship." "Impossible," Theia replied, excitement overtaking caution. "Humans have been extinct for over 6 centuries. Your existence defies everything we know." She moved closer, scientific curiosity overwhelming her usual restraint. "How did you survive? Were you in stasis? Are there others?" Caden's expression shifted from fear to confusion. "Extinct? That's impossible. I left Earth just 3 weeks ago." Theia's translator glitched momentarily at the word Earth, sacred terminology in her field of study. This human had stood on humanity's homeworld. The implications staggered her. "The cosmic timepiece waits for no traveler," she quoted reflexively from an ancient human text. Caden's eyes widened. "Einstein's temporal paradox essays. How do you know that?" Now it was Theia's turn to be shocked. That particular collection was considered lost, known only through fragments in her private research. Before she could respond, the laboratory door chimed again, more insistently. Director Orin's override codes activated. She had minutes, perhaps seconds. "Listen carefully," Theia whispered, moving closer. "Your existence will change everything. But not everyone will see you as I do. A miracle to be protected. Some will see only a specimen." Caden reached out, fingers hesitantly touching her arm. The first contact between their species in centuries. You need to help me find the others. The laboratory doors began to slide open. The laboratory doors slid open with an accusatory hiss. Theia lunged for the environmental controls, activating the quarantine fog, a standard research protocol that would buy them precious seconds. Director Orin, she called out, positioning herself between Caden and the entrance. Forgive the security measures. I'm handling potentially hazardous archaeological material. The tall, imposing figure of Director Orin remained in the doorway, his 4 eyes narrowing as they attempted to penetrate the swirling mist. Dr. Vex, the recovery team reports their transport vessel was empty before they arrived. Would you know anything about this unusual development? Theia felt Caden tense behind her. I authorized preliminary sample collection before full quarantine procedures. Standard protocol for degradable artifacts. The lie flowed smoothly, years of academic politics having honed her ability to navigate administrative confrontations. Samples only. Orin's voice carried suspicion. Of course, Theia replied. The main retrieval awaits your authorization. She gestured toward her communication panel. I was about to submit my preliminary findings. After a tense moment, Orin nodded. Very well. Full report within the hour. The Council is particularly interested in this crash site. With one final suspicious glance, he retreated, the doors sealing behind him. Theia released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with stress. She turned to find Caden studying her, fascination replacing his earlier fear. Your skin, it's beautiful, he said quietly, like watching stars through Aurora Borealis. The unexpected comparison startled her. You recognize the patterns. Similar to Earth's polar light displays, he explained, then winced. Or what used to be Earth's, apparently. Theia dismissed the quarantine fog with a gesture. We have very little time. Director Orin will check the recovery site logs and realize I've taken more than samples. She activated her private terminal. I need to understand what happened. How you're here when your entire species has been gone for centuries. Caden stood carefully, testing his balance. The Lazarus Project. We were meant to be humanity's insurance policy. 50 volunteers placed in experimental cryogenic suspension aboard self-sustaining vessels, programmed to remain dormant until finding habitable worlds. His eyes grew distant. It was supposed to be decades, not centuries. Extraordinary, Theia whispered, entering notes rapidly. The existence of such a program was theorized but never confirmed. Our historical records show human extinction resulted from cascading ecological collapse combined with a pandemic. No significant space presence survived. We were launched in secret as a last resort, Caden said. My pod must have malfunctioned, triggering early revival. His expression darkened. But if what you're saying is true, the others may still be out there, Theia finished, excitement coursing through her, in suspended animation, unaware of how much time has passed. She pulled up interstellar charts, her mind racing with possibilities. Where was your vessel headed? The Kepler systems, Caden replied, moving closer to examine the holographic display. His proximity sent an unexpected flutter through Theia's nervous system, a reaction she attributed to scientific excitement. That's beyond the Galactic Alliance borders, she murmured. Unexplored territory. Caden pointed to a sector on the map. It should be somewhere in this region. Their hands brushed as they both manipulated the star chart, causing Theia to recoil slightly at the unfamiliar sensation. Caden noticed her reaction. I'm sorry, he said. This must be strange for you. Studying something for your entire life only to find it standing in front of you. Someone, Theia corrected automatically. Not something. She hesitated, then added, though you're right. It's overwhelming. You're the greatest discovery in xenoanthropological history. Caden's expression shifted. I'm not a discovery. I'm a survivor. And I need to find the others before they're lost forever, or worse, found by people who see us as specimens. Theia's terminal chimed with an incoming priority message. Her eyes widened as she read it. The Council has ordered a full containment team to secure the crash site and any biological material recovered. She looked up at Caden. They know. What will they do? Best case? Permanent quarantine while they study you. Worst case? She didn't finish the sentence. Caden stepped forward, surprisingly calm. Then we need to leave. Now. Leave? I can't just. But even as she protested, Theia found herself gathering essential research data, transferring files to portable storage. Your entire career is studying humans, right? Caden asked. Well, I'm offering you the chance to find more than just one. An entire lost colony of humanity. The offer was irresistible to her academic mind, but something else tugged at her as well. Something she couldn't yet name. I could lose everything, she said quietly. Or discover everything, he countered. Theia stared at him, this living embodiment of her life's obsession. Then, decisively, she locked down her laboratory systems and activated the emergency evacuation protocol. There's a research vessel in the lower hangar bay, she said. If we hurry, we can reach it before the security lockdown initiates. As she gathered final supplies, Caden reached for a book on her desk, an actual paper book, one of her most prized possessions. The Persistence of Memory, he read from the cover. This was written by my sister. Theia froze. Impossible. That text is over 700 years old. Caden opened to a handwritten note on the first page. To my brother, may you find new skies to dream under. He looked up, eyes glistening. She knew I might never come back. In that moment, Theia realized she wasn't just saving a valuable specimen or the subject of her research. She was saving the last connection to a world she had spent her life trying to understand. The facility alarms began to wail. The research vessel hummed beneath Theia's expert touch as she guided it through Novaris Prime's upper atmosphere. Behind them, the sprawling complex of the Galactic Historical Academy diminished to a glittering speck against the planet's azure surface. Planetary Defense Grid activated, announced the ship's AI in its flat, emotionless voice. Unscheduled departures subject to immediate interception. Theia's digits flew across the navigation console. Security override VEX Alpha 917, she commanded, inputting a series of complex algorithms. Reclassify as scheduled maintenance flight. Caden watched from the co-pilot's seat, impressed. You've done this before. Field research often requires creative interpretations of protocol, she replied, not meeting his eyes. Though never quite at this scale. The defense grid hesitated momentarily before responding. Override accepted. Maintenance flight pattern recognized. Safe journey, Dr. Vex. Theia released a breath, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with relief. We have approximately 47 minutes before Director Orin realizes this vessel is missing and overrides my override. Where are we headed? Caden asked, studying the unfamiliar star patterns through the viewport. The fringe territories, Theia replied, setting coordinates. Beyond Alliance jurisdiction. It's where researchers go when they need to operate without institutional oversight. Sounds like my kind of place, Caden said with a wry smile that sparked an unexpected warmth in Theia's chest. As the ship accelerated toward the jump point, Theia studied her human companion surreptitiously. In her laboratory, he had been a subject, fascinating but clinical. Here, in the confined space of the research vessel, he was undeniably a person. The way his expressions shifted, how his hands moved when he spoke, the rise and fall of his voice. It was like watching history breathe. You're staring again, Caden noted without looking up from the navigation display. Professional habit, Theia replied, embarrassed at being caught. I've studied human mannerisms through fragmentary recordings for decades. Observing authentic behavior is valuable data. Caden turned to face her fully. Is that all I am to you? Data. The question caught her off guard. Of course not. She hesitated, searching for the right words. You're the living embodiment of a civilization I've dedicated my life to understanding. "You're a miracle." "Not a miracle," he corrected gently. "Just a survivor. And not the only one." He pulled the book, his sister's book, from his jacket. "If I survived, others must have too." The Lazarus Project launched 50 vessels. Theia nodded, initiating the jump sequence, which makes you infinitely valuable, not just to science, but to those who would exploit such a discovery. As if summoned by her words, the ship's proximity alarm blared. "Intercept course detected. Alliance security vessel approaching at combat speed." "That's impossible," Theia muttered, checking the scanner. "They couldn't have mobilized so quickly unless they were already looking for me," Caden finished grimly. The communication system crackled to life. "Research vessel Empirica. This is Commander Drav of Alliance Security. You are transporting restricted biological material. Power down and prepare for boarding." Thelia's hands hesitated over the controls. Everything in her training demanded compliance with authority. Everything in her heart screamed against it. "Dr. Vex," Caden said softly, his hand coming to rest on her shoulder. The warmth of his touch penetrated the fabric of her research uniform. "Whatever you decide, I understand." She looked up at him, this last fragment of humanity, and made her choice. "Initiating emergency jump," she announced, overriding safety protocols. The stars outside stretched into luminous streaks as the vessel hurled itself into fold space, leaving their pursuers momentarily behind. "That bought us time, not safety," Theia explained, monitoring the ship's strained systems. "They'll track our jump signature." Caden nodded, his expression solemn. "You've sacrificed everything for me. Your career, your reputation." "For science," she corrected hastily, her patterns flickering with emotion she couldn't quite name. "The discovery of living humans changes everything we thought we knew about galactic history." "Is that the only reason?" he asked quietly. Before she could answer, the ship shuddered violently, emergency lights flooding the cabin with crimson warning. "Jump drive destabilizing," the AI reported calmly. "Emergency exit from fold space in progress." They were thrown forward as the vessel tore back into normal space, systems blaring alerts. Through the viewport, an unfamiliar planetary system loomed. 3 small worlds orbiting a dying red star. "Where are we?" Caden asked, helping Theia back into her seat. She checked the damaged navigation system. "Barren sector. Abandoned mining colonies and smuggler outposts." She attempted to restart the primary drive without success. "We need repairs." "And a plan," Caden added, studying the approaching planets. "If Alliance Security wants me this badly, they won't stop searching." Thelia's third eye narrowed in concentration. "It's not just security forces we need to worry about. Once word spreads of a living human, every collector, scholar, and power-hungry official in the Alliance will join the hunt." As if confirming her fears, the long-range scanner detected multiple jump signatures forming at the system's edge. "We need allies," Theia decided, directing their faltering vessel toward the largest of the 3 planets. "I know someone in the fringe who specializes in helping people disappear." "Can they be trusted?" Caden asked, eyeing the approaching ships with concern. "Professor Nix was my mentor before the Academy expelled him for excessive human sympathies," Theia explained. "If anyone will help us find your missing colonists, it's him." As they entered the planet's atmosphere, Caden reached across the console, his fingers intertwining with hers in a gesture that sent unfamiliar sensations cascading through her nervous system. "Thank you," he said simply, "for believing me, for risking everything." Theia found herself unable to pull away from his touch. "The pursuit of knowledge often requires personal risk," she said, struggling to maintain professional detachment even as something deeper stirred within her. The vessel shuddered again as planetary winds buffeted its damaged hull. Below them, the lights of a ramshackle settlement glimmered against the barren landscape, a haven for those who wished to remain hidden from the watchful eyes of the Alliance. "Welcome to Sanctuary," Theia said as she guided their crippled ship toward an unmarked landing pad, the place where lost things go to be found. Caden's eyes met hers. Then we're in exactly the right place. Sanctuary lived up to its name in appearance only. The settlement sprawled across the cratered surface like a collection of metallic fungi. Mismatched structures cobbled together from salvaged starship parts and abandoned mining equipment. Yet to Theia and Caden, the chaotic haven represented their only hope. Professor Nix's dwelling sat apart from the main settlement, a dome-shaped structure partially embedded in a cliff face. As they approached, Theia's anxiety manifested in rapid pulses of light beneath her skin. He was more than my mentor, she explained to Caden as they traversed the rocky path. Nix was the only one who took human studies seriously when the Academy considered it a fringe pursuit. They called him obsessed. And what did they call you? Caden asked. Theia's patterns dimmed slightly. His misguided protege. The door to Nix's home slid open before they could announce themselves, revealing an elderly Novarine with pale, almost translucent skin and eyes that had faded from vibrant violet to soft lavender with age. Theia Vex, the old professor croaked, all four eyes widening as they shifted to her companion. And a genuine Homo sapiens. Either I've finally gone senile, or you've made the discovery of the millennium. Both can be true, Theia replied with affection, accepting Nix's embrace. Inside, the dwelling was a testament to human obsession. Artifacts and replicas filled every surface, while holographic reconstructions of Earth's lost cities hovered in suspended animation. Caden moved through the space in reverent silence, occasionally reaching out to touch items from his extinct civilization. This is authentic, he murmured, lifting a tarnished metal object. A pocket watch. My grandfather had one similar. Nix trembled with excitement. You must tell me everything. Where you've been, how you survived, what Earth was truly like. Professor, Theia interrupted gently. We're being hunted by Alliance security, and Caden believes there are other humans still in suspended animation. The old academic sobered immediately. Then we have much to discuss, and little time. He activated a security field around his dwelling. This will mask your presence temporarily, but we must move quickly. Over the next several hours, Caden shared the details of the Lazarus Project. 50 vessels, each carrying a single human in cryostasis, programmed to seek out habitable worlds and awaken their passengers only when suitable conditions were found. My early revival was a malfunction, Caden explained. The others could remain suspended indefinitely, waiting for the right planet signature. Or the right retrieval command, Nix suggested, bringing up ancient schematics. These vessels were designed with emergency recall protocols. With the proper signal, we could potentially activate their homing beacons. Hope flickered across Caden's features. You mean we could bring them here? Not here, Theia interjected. Sanctuary is the first place they'll look. We need somewhere truly hidden. Nix nodded thoughtfully. There is a place, a rogue planet in the Veiled Nebula. No official charts mark it. I discovered it during an unauthorized expedition 30 years ago. Perfect conditions for human physiology. As they formulated their plan, days stretched into weeks. While Nix worked on reconstructing the Lazarus recall signal, Theia and Caden repaired their vessel and gathered supplies. Their close quarters and shared purpose gradually eroded the barriers between researcher and subject. One evening, as they cataloged provisions, Caden paused, watching Theia's methodical movements. You know more about human culture than I do, he observed. I was an engineer, focused on survival systems. You've studied everything. Our art, literature, history. Yet I've never experienced any of it firsthand, she replied softly. My knowledge is academic, hollow. It doesn't have to be. Caden stepped closer, his voice dropping. My people had a custom when meeting someone from another culture. An exchange of knowledge. Theia's patterns brightened with interest. What kind of exchange? Caden extended his hand, palm up. May I? Hesitantly, she placed her slender, blue-tinged hand in his. The contact sent electrical impulses racing along her neural pathways. "Close your eyes," he instructed. When she complied, he guided her hand to his chest. "Feel that? My heartbeat. Single cardiac organ, unlike your dual hearts." Then he placed his hand gently against the side of her face. "Now show me something of your people." With trembling fingers, Theia guided his hand to the luminescent patterns along her neck. "These are our emotion signatures. Each pattern tells a story without words." "What does this one say?" Caden asked, tracing the intricate swirls that had intensified beneath his touch. "It says," she hesitated, scientific detachment warring with mounting feelings she could no longer deny. "It says I've never felt this way before." Their first kiss was a meeting of worlds, tentative, exploratory, then deepening with shared wonder. When they finally separated, Theia's entire body glowed with a brilliance that illuminated the dim room. "Is that normal?" Caden whispered, awed by her radiance. "Nothing about this is normal," she answered, drawing him back to her. Later, as Caden slept beside her, Theia reflected on how dramatically her existence had shifted. She had begun her journey seeking knowledge about an extinct species. Now she found herself emotionally entangled with perhaps the last conscious human in the galaxy, and plotting to resurrect his kind. The security perimeter alarm shattered her contemplation. "They found us," Nix announced grimly, rushing into their quarters. "Alliance vessels entering orbit. We need to leave. Now." As they hurried to prepare for immediate departure, Theia caught Caden staring at her with an intensity that transcended their dire circumstances. "What?" she asked, hastily gathering research materials. "I just realized," he said softly. "If we succeed, if we find the others, I won't be the last human anymore. Isn't that what you want?" His hands encircled her waist, pulling her close. "Yes, but I also want this, us, whatever it is we're becoming." Overhead, the rumble of approaching vessels emphasized the fragility of their newfound connection. "First, we survive," Theia said, resting her forehead against his. "Then we discover what we can become, together." The veiled nebula lived up to its name, a gossamer curtain of stellar dust that confounded sensors and obscured the rogue planet within its folds. Their vessel, now retrofitted with Professor Nix's experimental cloaking technology, navigated the treacherous cosmic clouds with agonizing slowness. "Signal amplifier ready," Nix announced from the modified communications array. "If any Lazarus vessels are within range, this should wake them up." Caden stood at the transmission console, fingers hovering over the activation sequence, the culmination of weeks of painstaking reconstruction. "Once we broadcast, there's no taking it back. Anyone listening for unusual signals might detect it. The nebula will provide some interference," Theia reassured him, her hand finding his shoulder. "And we've come too far to turn back now." Their relationship had deepened during their journey to the hidden planet, evolving from scientific curiosity to profound connection. Each night spent learning the contours of each other's bodies, each day sharing the stories of their vastly different lives. All of it had transformed them both. Caden took a deep breath and initiated the signal. Ancient code streamed into the void, calling out to vessels that might have drifted for centuries through the emptiness of space. "Now we wait," Professor Nix said, slumping with exhaustion. The journey had taken its toll on the elderly academic, his luminescence dimming noticeably in recent days. They established a temporary base on the rogue planet, a world without a sun, warmed by its own core and blanketed by a thick atmosphere that trapped heat and sustained an ecosystem of bioluminescent flora. In the perpetual twilight, they took turns monitoring the signal array. On the 17th day, the console chimed. "Response detected," Theia called out, her patterns flaring with excitement as she studied the incoming data. "Single vessel, approaching from the Scutum Centaurus arm." Caden's hands trembled as he confirmed the signature. "It's Lazarus Protocol. Genuine." 3 days later, They watched as a sleek craft, remarkably preserved despite its age, descended through the nebula clouds. Unlike Caden's damaged vessel, this one had remained intact, its passengers still in perfect suspension. Life signs stable, Theia confirmed as they approached the landed ship. Female. Neural activity increasing as the revival sequence progresses. Caden pressed his palm against the frost-covered cryo chamber, emotion overwhelming him. "I'm not alone anymore," he whispered. The chamber hissed open, revealing a woman with dark hair and features that reminded Theia of ancient East Asian ethnicities she had studied. As consciousness returned, the woman's eyes fluttered open, focusing first on Caden, then widening in shock at the sight of Theia and Nex. "Welcome back, Dr. Ileana Nakamura," Caden said gently. "You've been asleep for a very long time." Over the following months, more vessels responded, 7 in total, each carrying the human specialist chosen for their skills in rebuilding civilization. As each awakened to their new reality, Theia documented their reactions, their adaptations, their grief for a world lost centuries ago. But the growing human colony attracted unwanted attention. Alliance scout ships began probing the edges of the nebula, following rumors of extinct species sightings. "They're getting closer," Theia informed the gathered humans one evening. "Our concealment won't hold forever." "Then perhaps concealment is no longer the answer," suggested Dr. Nakamura, who had quickly emerged as a leader among the revived humans. "Your alliance fears us because we're unknown. Perhaps it's time we introduce ourselves, on our terms." The proposal was radical, a formal petition to the Galactic Council for recognition of humanity as an endangered sapient species entitled to protection under cosmic law, presenting themselves openly rather than hiding as fugitives. "It's risky," Professor Nix warned. "The Council might simply order your quarantine, or worse. But the alternative is hiding forever," Caden argued. "That's not why the Lazarus Project was created. We were meant to rebuild, to contribute, to survive." The debate raged for days, with Theia caught between worlds, the academic community she had abandoned and the human she had grown to love. Finally, a consensus emerged. They would petition the Council, but with a contingency plan in place should negotiations fail. On the day of their departure for the Alliance capital, Caden found Theia standing alone on a ridge overlooking their settlement. "Having second thoughts?" he asked, joining her beneath the luminous canopy of native vegetation. "Wondering what comes next," she admitted. "For 600 years, my people have studied yours as history. Now you'll be part of our present, our future." Caden's arms encircled her from behind. "Our future," he corrected. "Whatever happens, I'm not letting you go, even if that means being the subject of your research for the rest of my life." She turned in his embrace. "You stopped being my research subject the moment you quoted Einstein on my laboratory table." Their kiss was interrupted by Professor Nix's arrival, his movements labored but his eyes bright with purpose. "The Council has responded to our initial communication. They granted us a hearing." As they prepared their diplomatic vessel, loading evidence of humanity's achievements and cultural contributions, Theia completed her final research entry. "Extinction is not merely an endpoint but a doorway. Through it, we perceive what is truly essential about a species, not their biological makeup or technological achievements, but their capacity for adaptation, connection, and hope. In studying humanity's apparent end, I have instead witnessed its new beginning, and in the process, discovered that the greatest synanthropological breakthrough was not finding a lost species, but finding ourselves in each other." Aboard the ship bound for the Council chambers, Caden stood beside Theia at the viewport, watching the nebula recede behind them. Before them lay uncertainty, danger, and the weight of 2 civilizations' futures. "Ready?" he asked, taking her hand. Her patterns synchronized with his heartbeat, a phenomenon neither of their sciences could explain but both their hearts understood. "Ready," she affirmed, "for whatever comes next." Behind them, the 7 awakened humans prepared to represent their species. Before them, A galaxy that had forgotten them awaited their return. And between them, a bond forged across extinction itself promised that whatever the outcome, neither would face it alone. The stars stretched into streaks of light as they jumped toward their destiny, not as the last remnants of a dead world, but as the first emissaries of a reborn one.